Goes down. Well, it's definitely final hours now. I'm surprised it's working. You know, I was gonna do with Twitch and show the menu stuff, but yeah, it's just the time thing. I didn't like this. I don't like this game on Steam or anything, so I have to buy it again. This Discovery Tour is pretty cool. No, I didn't think it would still be up. I guess it's up till midnight tonight. It's kind of cool. I still hope for a last minute announcement saying, no, let's not shut it down. Let's see. Oh, cool. He's got the eagle.
Βρώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτού, ή να αντιβάλλομεν ποδέων γενέστε εις την ασυλλογισμών. Άλλο της θέμηδος ναός, ουκ εστί πανήγυρης.
Ή να σταθεί εν επιχείρημα δύο οι όρεις, το γιγνώσκιν και το επίσταστε. Σύμφημιση, αλίστας τραγωδίας, σοποφύς δείκνηση ημίν τινή τρόπο επιτυγχάνεται τούτο.
Εν μόνον πράγμα τελείται, η μεταλόγου εξήγηση των πουλήσεων ζητήματος τεινός και με αναπόδραστες εκβάσεις έτεινες λιπτέ έτη θέμηδη.
Μόνον όμως το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών
I
να κερδάνε εν ζήτημα. Ανατρέχομεν εις τους τραγικούς της δομής ταύτης ένεκεν, μάλλον εις Σοφοκλέα.
Βρώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτού, ή να αντιβάλλομεν ποδέων γενέστε εις την ασυλλογισμών.
Socrates. Oh, I gotta show this again. What's that? Cool.
Το γιγνώσκιν και το επίσταστε. Σύμφημιση, αλίστας τραγωδίας.
Pushes him.
Philosophy comes from the Greek word philosophia, or
I didn't know
love
that.
of wisdom. This concept was in direct contrast with philochromatia, love of money, and philotinia, love of honor. As of the second half of the 5th century BCE, Athens was known as Greece's capital of philosophy. Due to the rise of democracy, there was an increasing need for education beyond the basic subjects of elementary school. Athenian citizens needed to be able to participate in various functions of the democratic state, such as being elected for office, proposing new laws, engaging in military decisions, or simply defending their rights.
Yeah, love of wisdom. Know that? Philosophia. Oh, this is cool too. This show all these real world stuff. It's kind of cool. Actually, he's kind of the coolest character I have for this. Yeah, see? Pythagoras. Sorry, yeah. See, I can do some other ones, but not as cool. So I don't like the other ones yet. Like this guy here is kind of cool. Socrates. But he is, this one's cool. Achilles, of course. But he's kind of cool. Like he's got gold and stuff. This guy's kind of cool. And then the other ones, this guy's kind of cool too. I like this one. He is real. Yeah, that's for I don't know horse. That's about the best horse ever. Yeah, so that's basically you finish the game like that. Alright, so that's cool. Yeah, this history stuff is cool.
Originally, Athens had no official school buildings for higher education. Sophists and philosophers taught either in private homes or in public spaces like the theater. To recruit young pupils for long-term curricula, they also held classes in gymnasia, where young Athenians underwent physical training. The Cynosarges was a sanctuary to Heracles, located in the south suburb of Athens. At the beginning of the 4th century BCE, Antisthenes used this sanctuary as a teaching spot for his school of philosophy, the aptly named Cynicism.
Yeah, that's where cynicism comes from. What's that mean?
Originally, Athens
shit.
had sophists and philosophers taught either in private homes to recruit young pupils. The Cynosarges at the beginning of the 4th century BC.
Or more. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Σοφόκλης, άγε και φέρε πλειάδα χορευτών και παράστηθη εν ημίν μετασμάτων. Καλώναν ή
Any free citizen was allowed to involve themselves in the Athenian democratic process. However, to truly influence the flow of politics, their speech and rhetoric skills had to be impeccable. As a result, many sophists taught subjects like logic, reason, and eloquence. These were meant to help students achieve arete, or excellence. But this specific concept of excellence was often challenged, especially by other philosophers. For example, Plato, Socrates, and Isocrates preferred a more moral approach and argued that rhetoric should be used as a means to serve the greater good. Socrates and Plato went even further, declaring that philosophy and wisdom were not only useful tools, but also ethical virtues.
I calculate. Yeah, this was cool. That's kind of cool. They got my refund for this already, and they let me play it. I just, you think you had 3 months, lots of time when they announced it in when they gave the refund, whatever. I think that was 3 months. It was fast.
Ancient Greek philosophy was multidisciplinary in nature. In addition to wisdom and logic, philosophers also studied and taught math, geometry, music theory, and even medicine. For example, the philosopher Prodicus wrote a treatise called On Human Nature, where he outlined various explanations on human physiology. Philosophy's influence was also great enough to affect medicine. Hippocratic physicians were known to incorporate philosophical ideas into their work, and the treatise On Airs seems to be influenced by pre-Socratic theories on air being the first principle of the universe.
Yeah, they were ahead of their time, man. This is active. They were definitely start of our civilization. According to philosophy. I should be doing philosophy. We should be philosophizing.
The famed philosopher Socrates had an ambiguous relationship with sophists. In Plato's dialogues, Socrates is portrayed as being in constant opposition with the famous sophists of his time. Aristophanes' comedy, The Clouds, meanwhile, depicts Socrates as a sophist himself, constantly demanding payment for his teachings. Socrates was in fact very poor and made no money off his teachings. He also differed from the sophists in that while they only taught aristocratic youths, Socrates taught everyone, regardless of station. Unfortunately, his controversial ideas and practices did not sit well with the city of Athens, and he was eventually tried for impiety.
Άλλη αφήγηση της ιστορίας γίγνεται με τα αλληλουχία και το επιχείρημα αυτό καθ' αυτό εστί η ιστορία ταύτη. Ο εχέφρον αναγνωρεί τούτο. Τούτο εστί το όργανον ο χρήτε Σοφοκλής.
Σοφόκλης! Άγιε και φέρε πλειάδα χορευτών και παράστηκε ημίν μετασμάτων. Καλώναν ή ορχιστρικών μικρών συνοδείας χάρη.
Η τραγωδία κινείται μεταξύ τριών βαθμίδων. Δι συνεκτιμήσε δεόντως το απροσδόκητον του πελάτου και τεμελιώσετε τα δεδομένα και μετά
δι παριστάνε το άλγος αυτόν. Ποι αλλού ευρίσκεται η γνώσης ή μη πάρεξ ότι ο Κέφρον ουκ επενεργεί επί κλαφμών και οδυρμών, αλλά επί των δεδομένων. Ο νους εστί όσπερ κύπελον ο ευτύπλης. Όσπερ εμπλευρέ του κυπέλου έχει δόαση ευμετάβολον σχήμα. Κλαφμοί και οδυρμοί προκαλούσι δυσαρμονίαν μόνο.
Ναι, άλλη αφήγηση της ιστορίας γίνεται με τα αλληλουχίας και το επιχείρημα αυτό καθ' αυτό εστί η ιστορία ταύτη. Ο εχέφρον αναγνωρεί τούτο. Τούτο εστί το όργανον ο χρήτε Σοφοκλής.
Πλειάδα χορευτών και παράστηκε ημίν μετασμάτων. Καλώναν ή ορχιστρικών μικρών συνοδείας χάρη.
Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών, τότε
What's going on? What is this deal? the Eagles coming in. Protagonist.
Philosophy was not only a collection of ideas, but a way of life. According to philosopher Pierre Hadot, his ancient counterparts had a daily regime of spiritual exercises to combat their passions, doubts, and illusory beliefs. These exercises included meditation on death, contemplation of nature, or speaking with a friend or mentor. Philosophers also followed specific dress codes and diets. They were also part of a community of masters and students. These communities were created and strengthened in schools. Plato founded such a school in the early 4th century BCE, when he purchased a property in a grove just outside of Athens. The school was designed to groom students into philosopher citizens who could eventually rule the city in a measured and fair manner. It followed its own rules and was open to both male and female disciples.
That was accurate. And Plato. Yeah.
I can tell by the crease in your brow that you're already puzzling over the new things you've learned. Don't be embarrassed. Even the wisest among us need to ask questions before they search for answers. Is there anything else you'd like to do? You wish to test your wisdom? Very well. Let's see how you compare.
I wasn't paying attention.
Philosophers. The first question is an easy one. What does philosophia mean?
Oh, I know that one. Love of wisdom.
Correct. Philosophia referred to the love of wisdom. Time for the next question. The Kinosaries was a sanctuary dedicated to which Greek hero?
Right. It's gotta be Odysseus, the god of wine.
I'm afraid the Kinosaries was not a sanctuary to Odysseus. Keep trying.
Oh, it's gotta be Heracles.
Correct. It was the mighty Heracles. Now, for the last question. Which play by Aristophanes portrayed Socrates as a sophist?
I have no idea. Must have the clouds.
Yes, The Clouds was a comedy that portrayed the famous philosopher as a greedy sophist. Plato even believed that this caricature contributed to his mentor's eventual trial and execution. Well done, Wanderer. Even Socrates would be impressed by the depths of your wisdom.
I'm Pythagoras. I know everything.
As you wish, Wanderer. Safe travels.
What's we have? Let's go. I've actually been there. LeBron's daily life. I've done that. Do something daily life for plus. Must be Ricardo Regime. Oh, what? We are. You about. Sparks. The Battle of Matthew? Look at that. This is cool. A break from fighting and stuff. Oh, I didn't do all everything.
Welcome, visitor, to where Spartan boys become Spartan men. I can't help but be reminded of the boy I used to be. I wonder what that boy would think if he saw me today. Would he be proud? Intimidated? Or would he pity the tired old man standing in front of him? But such thoughts are meaningless. Let us move on.
Oh.
The Agogi was Sparta's strict education system. The strenuous regimen took in the young boys and then reshaped them until nothing was left but the strength, intelligence, and resolve of a perfect Spartan citizen. I will find you once your visit has ended, and we will talk further. Until then, visitor.
Oh.
Συνεπιφέρει πράξεις και παρεπόμενα. Πράξεις και παρεπόμενα αυτών άτινα προεπιλέγονται και υφάπτονται αλλήλεις κατά το δέον και αναγκαίο.
I actually use this in history classes now.
Sparta was a Greek city located in the Peloponnese. It differed from other cities of the time in that it had no walls. Sparta originated as 4 neighboring villages: Patane, Limnes, Mizoa, and Cynosura. All shared the same political, military, and religious life. After 2 wars with the Messenians, the city's territory expanded even further. By the 5th century BCE, they allegedly controlled almost half of the Peloponnese.
Αλλού βρίσκεται η γνώση συγκεκριμένη ότι ο εγώγεων θα ατορρώσει επικλαθμών των δυσμών, αλλά εκ των δεδομένων κατανοώ ότι η θέλησα συναντήσε με ως περκύπελον, ως πίπηση.
Ναι, όμως γάμος εστίευε.
Έτεινες που αισθάνονται με εκκληρονόμηση ηλικία και ρούμισφαρα προκαλούσε δυσαρμονία.
Πώς ήθιστε τα πρικόνα έξονται του ανδρός ιστορίας, γίνεται με τα
επιθυμούμενη γενερήτρα.
Το επιχείρημα αυτό
Η ούφες και στην ιστορία τέλος γάμου έστε.
Ο Εχέφρον αναγνωρεί τούτο, αλλά όμως ετεροδιώδη πάτων υποχρείται Σοφοκλής.
Περί αγάπης Σοφόκλης, ο βασικός αυτής, διπροστατευτήτων και παράσταση
διαλέγομεναν τούτο άλοθη,
μάλλον ανίω χιστρικών
Οι οφθαλμοί μου πεσέβουσι.
Ναι, οι τραγωδιάδες μεταξύ
Oh, that looks nice valley. Nice valley. Oh, SPD, I forgot about that. I took philosophy. That actually was fun first. Hey, what am I thinking?
Αλλά επί των δεδομένων, ως περκύπελο, ως πίπληση, ετοίηση ως...
Η αλληλαφήγηση της ιστορίας γίνεται με τα αλληλουχία. Και το επιχείρημα αυτό καθαρίζει στη ιστορία ταύτη. Ο Εχέφρον αναγνωρεί τούτο. Τούτο εσύ το όργανον, ο χρήτης Σοφοκλής.
The land's kind of cool, huh?
The Agoge was the military training and education program undergone by Sparta's male youth. Grooming men for war was one of the city's main priorities. Boys began their training at the young age of 7 and completed it when they were 30. It has been said that Spartan infants were inspected for weakness shortly after birth. If they were deemed too sickly, they were thrown into chasms. However, this information remains unproven. The healthy boys were considered suitable for training. When they came of age, they were removed from their families and were placed into service of the state. Their education included subjects like reading, writing, and even music, but was mostly focused on tough military exercises meant to turn the boys into efficient soldiers. The Agoge was divided into 3 cycles. One for boys aged 7 to 12, one for adolescents aged 12 to 20, and one for men aged 20 to 30. Each cycle included different exercises for refining the body and mind.
Πάψω. Οχλείς με.
Αλλά όμως η ο ελάσσονη εν τη συνήθεια, γιατί δεν λέγω τι εύκαινος φυτεύς,
Μεγαλώνει με και πολιώνει με. Τονία και θηροκτώνε.
Sparta played a large role in defeating the Persians during the Greco-Persian Wars in the 5th century BCE. They held their king Leonidas' glorious death at the Battle of Thermopylae in particularly high esteem. Because Leonidas was killed in battle, Sparta believed he died a good death and showed incredible bravery, qualities to be held as a model for all Spartans. This idealized bravery was embedded in the city's collective memory and was the main quality people strove for in the agoge.
Very cool.
Επικαλούμεσαι.
Man, next one, I can't wait till they combine all the Assassin's Creed into one. That would be amazing. Cool stuff. Ooh, there's 19 discovery sets.
The first cycle of the agoge focused on boys aged 7 to 12. Each of the boys had shaved heads and wore light clothing. They walked everywhere barefoot, swam the Odyssey River all year long, slept on reeds, and participated in cult rituals for Artemis or Thea. The boys were grouped into herds, or agoli, and were supervised by older adolescents. Once they reached the age of 12, they entered the second cycle of the agoge, which aimed to integrate them into the society of citizen soldiers.
Cool. That's more discipline we get today, man. Interesting. The younger groups. Bring some of that back to our schools.
The agoge's second cycle included boys aged 12 to 20. When they reached the age of 20, the young men were dubbed Erinyes and could officially serve as hoplites in the Spartan army. Until the age of 30, Spartan men lived in communal mess halls called Siskenia. From the age of 22 onward, they were permitted to start a family, but 30 was viewed as a more appropriate age to get married.
Wow.
Spartan men served in the military until they turned 60, when they were designated as elders, or gerontes. However, many were known to continue serving anyway, such as King Archimedes III, who fought in the army until he was killed in battle at the age of 62.
Wow. What's wrong with you guys? You're trying to take me down, man. What the hell? I'm trying to handle it, man.
All adult male Spartans participated in communal meals called syssitia. The attending Spartans contributed different kinds of food on a monthly basis, in addition to a small sum of money to pay for meat. Each man was entitled to one portion of a meal, with the exception of the kings, who received 2 portions. Syssitia attendance was mandatory for every Spartan fortunate enough to be part of the group. The meals had great political significance. According to Xenophon and Plutarch, the syssitia was designed to foster a sense of equality between citizens. It also demonstrated the self-restraint and moderation of Spartan society. But in reality, the syssitia only increased the differentiation between the rich and the poor. Those who could not afford to contribute to the communal food not only missed their meals, but also lost their right of citizenship.
Yeah.
Your tour has ended. As you have seen, the agoge was not for the weak or faint of heart, but it did its job in producing skilled warriors and shrewd citizens. What else would you like to do?
Let's see.
So you think you are ready for a test? Very well. Let us see how you fare. First, a simple question. The Agogi was made up of how many cycles? Correct. The Agogi was divided into 3 cycles. One for boys aged 7 to 12, one for adolescents aged 12 to 20, and one for men aged 20 to 30. Next question. How many meal portions were kings entitled to at Syssitia? Yes, Spartan kings had the right to double portions. One final question. When were Spartans allowed to grow mustaches?
Huh, that wasn't. Very.
Yes. Once a Spartan man was over 30, he was allowed to adorn his face with a glorious display of manhood.
Huh.
Impressive, visitor. You should be proud. Safe travels, visitor.
That's more. Nice. Oh, ooh, the nice. Nice. Oh, yeah, I do like the travelers version. Oh, no. Oh, that's a fancy color. Let's try it. What's the problem? I was doing suggestions. Okay, yeah. That's something.
Welcome to Pylos, traveler. This area, along with the nearby island of Sphacteria, were important battlegrounds during the Peloponnesian War. I always find it a shame that such lovely-looking places were exposed to so much violence. It's difficult to take pleasure in relaxing on the sand, knowing how stained it is with blood. The Peloponnesian War was a great conflict between rivals Sparta and Athens. It lasted many years and cost a great number of lives on both sides. The battles of Pylos and Sphacteria occurred almost one after the other, and culminated with one of the most surprising outcomes in the entire war. Ah, but I will not spoil it for you. You'll have to experience it on your own. I'll wait for you at the end of the tour.
Nice.
Since 431 BCE, the Peloponnesian War had been raging between Athens, Sparta, and their allies, with neither side gaining much ground. But in 425 BCE, an Athenian general named Demosthenes changed that. After a storm forced his fleet to stop in Pylos, Demosthenes realized a military presence in the area would give them an advantage against Sparta. Unfortunately, the fleet strategists did not believe him, and left Demosthenes in Pylos with 5 triremes and 1,000 men. The Spartans, meanwhile, were too busy celebrating a religious festival to notice the enemy on their doorstep. Since 431 BCE, the Peloponnesian War had been raging between Athens, Sparta, and their allies, with neither side gaining much ground. But in 425 BCE, an Athenian general named Demosthenes changed that. After a storm forced his fleet to stop in Pylos. Once Sparta discovered the Athenian presence on Pylos, the Spartan king Agis mustered his troops and fleet. Sparta then descended on Demosthenes' outpost, attacking from both the sea and the mainland. The Athenian general had to mount a hasty defense. He pulled his boats back to the foot of the ramparts and fixed them in place with stakes, providing extra cover. Then, going against all the established rules of battle, he descended with his hoplites to fight on the rocky shore, where he believed the Spartans would disembark. His gamble paid off, and the Spartans did indeed attempt to land at this location, though Demosthenes' forces made them hesitate. One of the Spartan leaders, Brasidas, decided to make the first move by ramming the rocks with his boat, exclaiming, "It's only a few planks." He paid for his actions when his shield slipped into the sea after descending from his boat, leaving him open to many blows. The battle raged on into the night and continued to the next day, remaining locked in a stalemate. However, on the evening of the second day, Athenian reinforcements arrived.
Humans, eh? Kept the population under control.
The sudden arrival of the Athenian fleet stacked the odds in Athens' favor. The fleet decided to hold off their attack until the next day, when they swarmed the Spartan ships. They successfully captured 5 enemy ships and damaged many others, cutting off access to the nearby island of Sphacteria. Then, to add insult to injury, the Athenians raised a stake hung with weapons they'd captured from the Spartans, including the shield of Brasidas. Meanwhile, the 420 Spartans on Sphacteria were trapped, and Sparta was completely helpless to rescue them.
That's what the Spartans came. Wow. More victory. Cool. There's like the history, eh?
With 420 of their men trapped on Sphacteria, Sparta needed to reevaluate their position. The Spartans on the island were essentially the Athenians' hostages, and Sparta could not move to rescue or resupply them without putting their lives in danger. In an effort to save the trapped soldiers, the Spartan leadership negotiated an immediate truce with the Athenian strategists. Sparta agreed to hold back its fleet and halt their attacks on Pylos. And in return, the Athenians permitted them to send supplies to their men. In the meantime, Sparta sent ambassadors to Athens to try and negotiate a better deal. The hasty truce greatly humiliated Sparta. as they were forced to recognize just how helpless their infantry was in the face of an Athenian fleet.
Ah.
To bargain for the safety of their men, Sparta sent ambassadors to Athens to propose a cessation of hostilities. The ambassadors tried to emphasize that their situation was not a result of strategic incompetence or lack of strength, but rather plain bad luck. According to them, the Spartans on Sphacteria did not deserve to suffer further because they were trapped through no fault of their own. These statements provoked the ire of Cleon, a popular Athenian politician known for his populist speeches. Cleon insisted that the terms of negotiations be discussed openly before the assembly and the Athenian people, instead of in private. The Spartan ambassadors were not as comfortable with public speaking as the Athenians, so they decided to leave.
Well, interesting.
Following the failed attempts of the Spartan ambassadors, hostilities resumed. Back in Athens, Cleon took matters into his own hands. After being elected general, or strategos, he left to join the ongoing battle, accompanied by javelin-armed infantry and archers. With renewed strength and numbers, the Athenians landed on Sphacteria and engaged their enemy. The battle was hard fought, but they eventually managed to surround the remaining Spartans. It was then that Cleon invited the Spartans to surrender, as he hoped to return to Athens with prisoners. The Spartans were exhausted after spending 72 days on the island, so they accepted Cleon's offer and laid down their arms. A Spartan capitulation had previously been unheard of, and the news of their surrender echoed throughout Greece like thunder. The Spartans' capitulation completely changed the course of the Peloponnesian War. Athens used their new prisoners of war as leverage and threatened to execute them if Sparta ever returned to pillage their lands. This gave the Athenians the freedom to conduct their own raids, which were aided further by their eventual seizing of the island of Cythera. Sparta tried to negotiate for peace, but were unsuccessful. Cleon, meanwhile, was emboldened by his victory and continued to gain popularity with the Athenian people. Popularity that
Hey, sorry, I thought the door was open.
I hope you enjoyed learning about the battles of Pylos and Sphacteria. The battles were hard fought by both sides, but Athens' victory gave them an enormous boost in morale. It encouraged them to be more aggressive, and it was some time before Sparta recovered from the aftershocks of their historic surrender. Now, Is there anything else you'd like to do?
Not much of a surprise in that, though.
I'm happy to oblige. Let's begin. Where were Demosthenes and his fleet forced to land during a storm? Demosthenes landed close to the island, but not directly on it. Try again. Yes, Demosthenes landed at Pylos, where he was inspired to set up an outpost. On to the second question. Which famous Athenian argued with the peace-seeking Spartan ambassadors?
Famous Cleon? Yeah, it was Cleon.
Correct. Cleon demanded the terms of the peace be discussed in front of the Athenian assembly, which greatly dissuaded the ambassadors. One last question. Which Spartan general rammed Pylos with his ship?
That's.
Correct. Brasidas ordered his ship to ram the rocks and lost his shield in the process. You've passed the test. Well done, traveler. Then I will say farewell. Though I hope our paths will cross again someday.
There are Cleos. Oh, that's kind of cool. Myth. That's all. School of Greece music.
Welcome to Athens, wanderer. More specifically, welcome to the musical hub of the city, the Odeon. Sometimes, when the burdens of life begin to weigh heavy on my shoulders, I come here, close my eyes, and surrender myself to the music. It makes me feel like I'm a child again. My mother singing me to sleep with a gentle lullaby. The Odeon was where musicians came to share their songs with the public. The melodies played here caught the wind and drifted through the air, soothing the souls of Athenians across the city. Come find me when your visit is complete, and we will talk about the things you've learned. See you soon, wanderer.
Music played an important part in almost every aspect of ancient Greek life. Whether attending a public gathering, rubbing elbows at a dinner party, laying out offerings in a temple, or marching into battle, there was a song for everything. Aristotle even wrote that music increased the efficiency of laborers, and it was often played for rowers and field pickers to keep them working at a steady rhythm. Musical contests, or agones, were originally only held during religious festivals. Over time, they became cultural events in their own right and attracted musicians and spectators from all over the Greek world. For example, the Athenian Panathenea festival featured competitions for instrument playing and poetry recitation. The Dionysia festival included contests between groups of male singers to see who could best perform a dithyramb, a merry hymn in honor of the god Dionysus. While these contests could be attended by all, women weren't allowed to compete in them. In the early days of the competitions, winners only received a crown and an ego boost for their talents. But from the Hellenistic period onward, the rewards were upgraded to cash prizes. These prizes were large enough for musicians to make a fortune, especially if they moved from festival to festival.
Hey, that's not my favorite.
The Odeon of Pericles was built sometime between the 440s and 430s BCE. The building was commissioned by Pericles for use in the Panathenea festival. The Odeon was also a venue for poetry readings, political rallies, and philosophical performances. According to ancient sources, the original design of the Odeon was inspired by the tent of the Persian king Xerxes, a spoil of war the Athenians salvaged after their decisive victory at Salamis in 480 BCE. The building's roof was made of timber from captured Persian ships. In this sense, the Odeon was both a triumphant symbol of Athens and an insult to their Persian enemies. This structure was considered one of the grandest architectural accomplishments of ancient Athens. In ancient Greece, there was a type of music for almost any occasion. Complicated songs like hymns, paeans, and dithyrambs were meant for the ears of the gods, and as such were usually played during religious ceremonies and civic life. Meanwhile, a hymneus was a song performed at weddings, and a threnody accompanied funeral processions. For more merry occasions like symposia, scholia were the soundtrack of choice. However, drama was considered the epitome of artistic expression, since it combined songs with poetry, dance, acting, and costumes. Plays were thought to be the connection between mortals and gods, and the songs that accompanied them, especially those from the tragedies of Euripides, often became huge hits in the rest of Greece.
Oh, there's something to grab you.
The bravest they'll fight to the grave.
That music. I thought I had stuff for Greek language. Can you sit down? Oh,
Hello again. I trust your visit was worthwhile, and that learning of music was a feast for your mind. I know it was for mine. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Fancy yourself an expert on music? Then let's put your knowledge to the test. Which of the following songs was played at weddings? Threnodias were funeral dirges.
Whoops.
They were unlikely to be played at weddings unless the musicians had a morbid sense of humor. Try another answer.
Yeah, it's not the first.
It's true that the Thiramvi were on the merrier side, but they were sung in honor of Dionysos, not newlyweds. Try again.
What's yeah,
A pean was a hymn to the gods. It was not sung at weddings. Keep trying. Correct. A Imeneos was performed at weddings to wish the couple a happy and prosperous union. Let's move on to the second question. The Odeon of Pericles was modeled after spoils of war from which Athenian enemy? Correct. Not only was
Hey, I
the
forgot about the
city built
Odeon
on the
Theater.
death of the
Like
Persian
ours
king
is was named
Xerxes,
after.
but the building's roof was made of wood from captured Persian ships. Only one question remains. According to Aristotle, music was especially important to which group of people?
Oh yeah, they were.
You are correct. Aristotle believed music improved certain motor skills, so it was played for field pickers and rowers to increase their work output. You definitely have an ear for music, Wanderer. I applaud you. Farewell, Wanderer. I hope you enjoyed the sweet sounds of the Odeon.
Oh, I can't believe I'm wearing shoes. I'm doing some history. Ancient Greece history. You can change.
Are you doing another video?
Yeah. It's history, watch. It's really cool. Look at the horse I got. It's really cool. They actually use this in university now to teach history. You watch. Let's do arch ownership. I forgot about that Odeon Theater. Mommy probably knows that. That's why the Odeon Cinema is named after. It's a big theater in Athens that was built from when the Persians used the wooden ship to make the theater. That's pretty cool.
Welcome, Wanderer, to one of the most prestigious places
Hey,
in
we got that
Greece,
stuff.
the theater.
To us, plant-based is a living thing. It's who we are. We've always had great body care products that inspire the delightful scents of the garden.
I tell you, but I think it's best to let the actors speak for themselves.
What's going on? Où est le problème?
The theater was where audiences gathered to watch plays. They were the highest form of art in Greece, and people saw theater as a symbol of complete harmony between the mortal world and the divine. When you're done taking in the sights and sounds, come see me, and we'll talk more. Until then, Wanderer.
υποσύσπισμον τέχνη. Μη θεολητήσον μία τουλεκάδα γελάδων, άστινας, ήλθε, παρεμούς του ενού αδελφού. Αντιλαμβανόμεθα ότι ούτε έφυγε μετά τις εξαρχηρούν ταύτας του.
Εστί η ιστορία ταύτης. Ο εχέφρον αναγνωρεί το παντοδύναμο του αισθητό όργανο.
Theater is not just part of geek culture, but was a major part of Greek culture. In Athens, comedies and dramas originated from the dancing and singing performed by members of the cult of Dionysus. Between 536 and 533 BCE, theater's burgeoning importance in Athens was demonstrated when the responsibility of organizing tragedies was entrusted to the archon, the highest-ranking magistrate in the city. From then on, theater grew rapidly in popularity, and soon a permanent space for performing and watching plays was built on the slope of the Acropolis. During the 5th century BCE, theater became intertwined with Athens' democracy. It often functioned as an echo chamber for political ideas, and in some cases, it could even influence public opinion. As a result, in the 4th century BCE, Plato coined the term theatrocracy to describe his city's politics.
Ο νους εστιός περ κύπελον ο ευπίβληση, ετίεισι ως περεπλε...
Ναι, αλλά η αφήγηση της ιστορίας γίγνεται με τα αλληλουχίες. Και το επιχείρημα αυτό καθ' αυτό εστί η ιστορία ταύτη. Ο εχέφρον αναγνωρεί το αισθητό όργανο ο χρήτες Σοφοκλής. Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών, τότε δύναται.
Βρώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτού να αντιβάλλομεν το δέον γενέστε εις τεινά συλλογισμών, αλλό της θέμιδος ναός ουκ εστί πανήγυρης.
Είναι στα...
Εν μόνον πράγμα τελείται, η μεταλόγου εξήγηση των βουλήσεων ζητήματων.
Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών, τότε δύναται κερδάνε εν ζήτημα.
Βρώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτού να αντιβάλλομεν το δέον γενέστε εις τεινά συλλογισμών, αλλό της θέμιδος ναός
είναι σταθή εν επιχείρημα.
Μόνον πράγμα τελείται. Η μεταλόγου εξήγηση των βουλήσεων ζητήματος κοινός και αναπόδρασες εκβάσεις έτινες λιπτέ τη θέμητη.
Τραγωδία κινείται
μετά δι παριστάνε το άλγος αυτόν. Πι αλλού ευρίσκεται η γνώσης ή μη πάρεξ ότι ο εχέφρον ούκ επενεργεί επί κλαθμών και οδυρμών, αλλά επί των δεδομένων. Ο νους εστιός περ κύπελον.
Ναι, αλλά η αφήγηση της ιστορίας γίγνεται με τα αλληλουχίες. Και το επιχείρημα αυτό.
Σοφόκλης, Σοφόκλης, άγε και φέρε πλειάδα χορευτών και παράστηθη εν ημίν μετασμάτων. Καλό να...
Τραγωδία κινείται μεταξύ τριών βαθμίδων. Δι συνεκτιμήσε δεόντως το απροσδόκητο του πελάτη και τεθεμελιώστε τα δεδομένα. Και
μετά δι παρίστα. Ο νους εστιός περ κύπελον ο ευπίβληση.
Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών, τότε δύναται κερδάνε εν ζήτημα. Ανατρέχομενοι σου.
Βρώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτού να αντιβάλλομεν το δέον γενέστε εις τεινά συλλογισμών, αλλό της θέμιδος ναός ουκ εστί πανήγυρης. Εν μόνον πράγμα τελείται, η μεταλ...
Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών, τότε δύναται κερδάνε εν ζήτημα. Ανατρέχομενοι στους τραγικούς της δομής ταύτης ένεκεν. Μάλλον...
Βρώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτού να...
Είναι σταθή εν επιχείρημα δύο, η όρηση, το γίγνωσκιν και το επίσταστε. Σύμφιληση. Αλλά στις τραγωδίες ο Φοκλής δείχνει σήμη τινή τρόπο επιτυγχάνεται τούτο.
Εν μόνον...
Τραγωδία κινείται μεταξύ τριών βαθμών.
Μετά δι παριστάνε το άλγος αυτόν. Πι αλλού ευρίσκεται η γνώσης ή μη πάρεξ ότι ο εχέφρον ούκ επενεργεί επί κλαθμών και οδυρμών, αλλά επί των δεδομένων. Ο νους
Ναι, αλλά η αφήγηση...
Μεγαλώνει με και πολιώνει με, γωνία και θεοκτώνε, φιλαθρώτη και λυκερία.
Theatrical competitions were held in the sanctuary of Dionysus Eleutherios, god of wine and patron of drama. Dionysus was the son of Zeus and a mortal woman named Semele. Stories say that Zeus, who had fallen in love with Semele, appeared to her holding a lightning bolt in his hand. Semele was tragically struck dead by the lightning, but Zeus managed to save her unborn child, keeping the embryo in his thigh until it fully gestated. This is why the name Dionysus is sometimes thought to mean born twice. In Athens, theater was a part of the cult of Dionysus, and stage productions in the god's honor were held during festivals like the Linnea and the Great Dionysia.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαότιμα, εγνώνει την πολίονται, πολυλίστη λυτήρα κακών, ιστρούσα βροντών.
Κι εγώ θεά εύδρομε, πέμπτης, διείς ωραίων κεφαλάς νόσουστε και άλγη. Νόσουστε και άλγη. Επικαλούμε σε μάκαν, πολιώνουμε, περίφολε και τελετάρχα, θεών πάτερ, ιδέ και ιέ, σκυπτούχε, κούρεγματο, πατρίο κούσμε, οδηγέ των κομμών, ελθέ, μάκαν, μυστέεσαι, βρίον και χαρημένος αΐ. Και πολιώνει με χθονία και θηροκτώνε, φυλαγρώτη και λυτηρία, δρυμονίτης και βρωτών ελπής, ελθέ, η κατέχεις ωραίων δρυμούς, ελθέ, θεά σώτηρα, άβουσε καλούς καρπούς, απογείς ειρήνη τερατήν, καλή πλόκαμον, θυγία και εγώ θεά εύδρομε. Η τραγωδία κινείται μεταξύ τριών βαθμών. Τι συνεκτιμήσετε όντως το απροσδόκητο του πελάτου.
Άρτη ευρίσκεσαι μεταξύ νεκίων και επαφάτων.
In Athens, there were 3 festivals that honored Dionysus with drama performances: the rustic Dionysias, the Linnea, and the Great Dionysia. For the rustic Dionysia, each deme of Attica organized their own Dionysiac procession. The parades were full of phallic songs, dances, and symbols meant to signify fertility, and participants wore drunkard masks and sang bawdy lyrics about the god. The Linnea was the oldest Dionysian festival. It was exclusively reserved for Greek citizens and mostly made up of comedy performances. Finally, the Great Dionysia was the most important festival. Taking place over several days, it began with a parade called a phallophori, followed by a dithyramb contest, and ending with consecrated drama competitions.
Εσείς κρέονται ότι εγώ έστει τούτο το δώρο.
The Great Dionysia was supervised by the head magistrate known as the Archon, who was assisted by 12 other magistrates. Among his duties, the Archon picked Korigoi, rich Athenian citizens responsible for providing the budget for rehearsals and performances. 2 days before the Dionysia, a ceremony called the Proagon took place where playwrights introduced their work. The Dionysia finally began in earnest with a procession to the god's temple, followed by sacrifices and a symposium. The next 2 days centered on dithyramb contests, while the final 4 days were dedicated to drama competitions. The contests' outcomes were decided by 10 judges who were appointed at random by the Archon. The judges placed their votes in an urn, and 5 of the votes were randomly picked to determine the winner. All Athenian stage actors were male, regardless of whether they were playing men or women. Tragedies originally featured only one actor performing alongside a chorus, eventually reaching a maximum of 4. Adding more roles opened up the opportunity for dramatic dialogue. During performances, they prepared themselves in the skene, a building that served as a backstage area before emerging onto the proscenion, or stage. The skene could be painted to represent backdrops like palaces, temples, and tombs. Its roof was reserved for appearances by the gods. These gods could be moved around with a crane called a mechane, which produced spectacular visual effects. On stage, actors wore masks and elaborate costumes. For tragedies, they were adorned with magnificent clothes. While for comedies, actors playing male characters wore hugely exaggerated phalluses, probably to maximize the laughs. The centerpiece of the theater was the orchestra, or dancing place. It was a large, circular area that hosted choral performances, religious rites, and, presumably, acting. Choruses were composed of men wearing masks and costumes. Any Athenian citizen could be choritai, as long as they were selected by the chorus director. Chorus members also served as the equivalent of a curtain, as their entrance and exit marked the beginning and end of the play. New costumes and masks were produced for the chorus for every new play, and they were often just as impressive and elaborate as the performances. For example, Aristophanes' comedies featured the chorus dressing as wasps, frogs, birds, clouds, and islands. One of his plays, The Knights, even had men riding other men dressed as horses. Athens' Theatron, or performance space, could seat up to 17,000 people, nearly a tenth of the population of Attica. Its excellent acoustics made it ideal for drama, but it was also sometimes used for political meetings and parades. The theater was accessible to everybody, This did not mean that seating was free, though. The first rows were normally where priests and public officials sat, while the central part of the auditorium was reserved for ambassadors and guests of honor. There is also evidence that men and women sat separately. In general, theater audiences were emotional and noisy. During performances, they would shout, curse, and throw things depending on their mood, and their reactions were just as much a part of the experience as the acting.
Ο σως πατήρης τα ανέσχυντος φύ. Ώρα. Είμαι τόσο ικανός ως...
Hello again, Wanderer. I hope your visit was entertaining. Though all art forms were important in Greek culture, none had the same prestige as theater, which provided a unique experience with every performance. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Really? Then let's begin. Who was Dionysos' mother? Correct! Unfortunately, Semele died before her son was born, but Zeus saved the unborn baby and raised him as a god. Next, another question. Which competitions took place on the second and third days of the Great Dionysia? No, the drama contests were reserved for the final 4 days of the festival. Try again. Yes, the Thyramvi were hymns dedicated to Dionysos, and the Thyrambos contests were held on the second and third days of the festival. And finally, the last question. Which of the following is the oldest festival dedicated to Dionysos? The Great Dionysia was one of the largest festivals dedicated to the god, but not the oldest. Try a different answer. The Adonia was dedicated to Adonis, not Dionysos. Try again. You are correct. The Linnea was the oldest Dionysiac festival. Congratulations, Wanderer. You're a very studious theater goer. Then I will leave you be. Farewell, Wanderer.
Των ηλαίων, πως γαρεξί και το κέπερις είναι ναυτικοί αποκλεισμοί, επιήλθε αμέσως δια Κυρίνης, έχουμε ναρτοποιούς και καμίνους, πρίας θεσποκίτας άρτους ή την εσυσίαν επίκλητη τη Διονύσο τραπέζι, και πλακούντας όντινον δέποτε γέφτα. Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαώτη με, τεχνών μήτυρ πολύολβε.
Επικαλούμεσαι, μάκαρ πολιώνυμε, πυρίπολε και τελετάρχα, θεών πάτερη δε και ιε, σκυπτούχε, κούρε δημάτω.
Να σε πάμε.
Ελδέ, μάκαρ νύχτε. μεταξύ τριών βαθμίδων, δι συνεκτιμήσε δεόντως το απροστόκητο του πελάτου και δεν τεμιλιώστε τα δεδομένα. Και μετά...
Μετά δι παριστάνε το άλγος αυτό. Ή αλλού ευρίσκεται η γνώση η μη πάρεξη ότι ο εκέφρος ούκ επενεργεί επικλαθμών και οδυρμών, αλλά επί των δεδομένων, ο νους εστί ως περ κύπελον ο εκπίπτης. Αιτία εσύ ως περ επιλευρέ. Έτεινες τη δόαση μετά από το σχήμα.
Άδικον εστί.